Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Now,
Welcome to ITS 140. Okay. All right, so let's get started then. Today, as you know, on this week, on Tuesday, we started talking about two topics, which were input validation and files, handling files. Today, we're going to continue with that. And basically today, it's a lab, so we're just going to do a few examples or problems. Also, a couple other things before I forget. I want you guys to please start thinking about your term project for this semester. So what the term project should be is basically a program that integrates everything that we have learned basically this semester. So it should have, you need to come, now I'm gonna leave it open for you guys to figure out what you wanna do, something that you think is exciting, fun, but it should be a program in Python where you use everything that we have learned basically. It should, have loops, if statements. You should read from files, write to files. You should have input validation, exception handling, arrays, sorting arrays. We haven't covered that, and a few other things that we still need to cover. We still have a few weeks left in the semester, so we will get to that. But basically what I want you to do is to start thinking about your term project. So you can form groups of 3, okay? So you'll form groups of 3 or 2 at minimum, 3 maximum. And just start thinking, find your group members first. And then after that, and keep in mind, part of the project is teamwork, all right? So learning how to work in teams. I realize that it's more challenging right now with this whole situation, but you'll just have to find ways. Maybe if you don't know who to work with, maybe through the chat, you can find somebody to work with. I'm just gonna quickly look at who's here. So we've got.
Wait, so how many people is it? Is it just like a pair?
2 is the minimum, 3 is the maximum.
Okay.
Let me just look over. All right. Yeah, so figure out your groups, okay? Figure out your groups. It's nothing too complicated, okay? It's really 2 things. It should be, pick something that you actually want to do. That's the first thing that I always say in a project. Take advantage of this. Do that thing. Also do something realistic. I mean, don't tell me that you're gonna, implement Fortnite or something like that, right? Pick something easy. We still, as I said, we do need to cover a few more topics, like in particular, GUIs, object-oriented programming, sorting of arrays, recursion. Okay, and so there's still a few topics, but we've already covered a lot of the main topics, which is good. So today we're just gonna do input validation problems, really, and maybe something with files a little bit. But really, what I want you to do is, think of topics. When you form your group of 3, let's say, I'm gonna ask you to let me know 3 topics. Okay, 3 topics that you want to do. So actually right now, if you already know the people here, just take this opportunity, maybe through the chat or via email on your own if you know them, however you want to do it. Try to form the groups, okay? and come up with 3 ideas that you want to implement. You know, some examples of ideas would be like, you know, some type of an inventory system, right? So usually, you know, you collect, you have a hardware store and you're going to store everything in files, you know, or you're going to do a bookstore, a pet shop. Usually things like that work really well. But it can be other things, you know, try to implement a simple type of a Facebook. I don't know, you know, it's got to be some, you know, obviously it doesn't have to be, you know, a big thing. My only requirement is that you use every topic that we've covered in the class effectively, that it works, you know, that the code runs, that it's modular, that you use functions. At the end, we're going to do object-oriented programming. So it should not, the whole thing needs to be object-oriented, but just it should have a little bit of that. You know what I mean? So just a little bit of everything, and it kind of works together in one single program. Are there any questions about the project? As I said, you know, right now is a good time. In the semester, it still gives you, you know, quite a bit of time, especially before all the holiday breaks that we're going to have. So as far as the project, so how does it work? So the last week, the week before finals, the week before finals, so that Tuesday and Thursday, I usually reserve for the term project. So what I do is we're going to do the presentations on Tuesday, but I always leave Thursday open in case somebody has, you know, it's a common thing. Students have problems, issues, etc. And so you have both days. So you have to do a PowerPoint presentation, but you also need to do a demo. So in the PowerPoint presentation, you'll discuss your topic, you know, what you want to do, or what you did, sorry, and how it works, anything interesting that you did. And then in the demos section, you will just run it and show that it works. So you have to show that it is working. And that's basically what it is. I don't remember what percentage of your grade the project is. You can check the syllabus for that, but it's probably somewhere between 10% and 20% of your grade. Everyone must present. I realize, again, we are in this environment currently because of the pandemic, but you know, we can always do like share screens and all of that, and that should work. Are there any questions? I saw some, let's see, in the chat. Let's see if that's what you're doing. All right. Okay, no, so there's no questions. You're just trying to sort out your groups. So yeah, so use this time. Let's take about 5 minutes, I guess, since, you know, it's kind of strange environment here. Take about 5 minutes and form groups of 3, and then, you know, think about 3 topics that you want to do, okay? And then just send me an email. Just say, you know, this is our group. These are the members, and these are the 3 topics that we want, and you will select one. So at least right now, you don't have to basically say you want to do that, but, you know, at least I got something from you, okay? So take about 5 minutes, talk to everyone, make sure you get in, and then, as I said, form the groups, write down the 3 people in your group, send me an email, and specify, you know, 3 topics, please. So anything that you do, keep in mind, would be just a simple thing. We haven't done much in graphics. It's not going to be a web. It's all Python. There is a Python for web, but we're not going to get to that this semester. But form the groups. Think of something, anything interesting. I'm fine with anything. And then what you do is, as I said, as long as you integrate all the topics of the class, in some way, that would be sufficient. All right, so send me your emails once you have them, and then that way I know that the project is assigned and you're working on it. And then after that, we're just going to start doing a few examples. We're just going to take it easy today with the lab, just do examples and problems. Any questions? All right, so as I said, I'm giving you a few minutes. If you have any questions, just let me know. All right, so let's see what's going on in the chat. Yeah, so I realized that you guys don't know each other. Just find find the groups of 3, and once they're formed, start sending me emails, okay? Because that will help me to figure out, okay, do I have one student that did not get in a group? Not all of you in the group need to send me the email, just pick a person, and then that person can send me, copy your teammates, but just send me 1 email per group. So we have about 6 weeks left in the semester. Really, if we look at, you should be seeing, I think, the I think you should be seeing the Brightspace. So let me go to the course website. So you should now be seeing the course website. Let me know if you aren't. And if you look in the course website, we are currently on, today's the 22nd. So we are here. All right. And then after that, the 22nd, which is going to be over, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a half, right? So that's what we have. But if you think, well, I should say that's not true, because it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5, given that your presentations are on this day. So on December 8th is when you'll have to do your presentation. So really, you only have 5.5 weeks, and here you have a Thanksgiving break. So, and then your final will be during finals week. So keep that in mind. You have about 5 weeks to work on this. So you really want to get started with topics. And that's why I want to make sure everyone is clear on that. If there's any questions, please. All right, so yeah, let's do this. So let's take a few minutes with this. Is there anyone that doesn't have a group right now? Can you please speak up if you don't have a group? And like I said, if you have a group already, please start sending me emails so I can start if you don't want to speak your group, you can just send me an email, and that's how I'll keep track of everyone being in a group. Again, remember, put the 3 members in your group and the 3 topics that you'd like to do. Or, you'll pick one, but just put 3 topics there. We're not going to cover much in terms of graphics. We're going to do some menus and GUIs, but that will come, like sometime later. The last topics that I'll cover probably are recursion, which are the more advanced ones, and object-oriented programming. They will be towards the end of the semester. I will cover them. So I will at least try to cover GUIs or menu-driven a little bit before. So as far as topics, as I said, anything you want to do. Obviously, you're not going to be able to implement the system as is. It might just be an approximation given, the tools that we have currently. But you can pick anything. I mean, it could be an inventory management system. It could be, those are good always. Like bookstore, hardware store. Just imagine a mom and pop shop. They have receipts from a machine, and every day at the end of the day, they store that. We've done some problems like that. So obviously this would be a more complete one with everything. So that's, those are good. You can do some kind of a data science, AI type of a project, some kind of automation. You could do like a news type of a thing, a magazine. Remember, you will have data stored in a file, so you have that. Definitely one thing that I want to recommend strongly is don't just find a program online and try to present it as yours, okay? I will know immediately. I'd rather just see a program that kind of works, not very, but I know you did everything and you tried. The whole point is to learn, to put into practice everything, to work in teams, and to try to bring all the tools together to fulfill a goal, right? So that's really, don't stress too much over this. Remember, I'm not very, as long as you have something that sort of works, I'll be able to tell, Right, so are there any other questions at this time about the project? No questions? All right, so I'm going to assume that everyone is in a group now because I'm not seeing any. Okay, are we allowed to take inspiration from open source code? Like this open source project does cool things and I want to do the same cool thing, but with my own coding. Yeah, as long as I said, you know, if it's the idea, if you just tell me like in words, you know, 3 sentences or a paragraph, this is what I want to do, and then you do it. Remember, you're gonna, you know, it's the reason why I'm asking for 3 projects is we're gonna talk about them, and then you're gonna pick one, and then I will know, you know, pretty much what I would expect you to do. So we're gonna talk it and then talk about it, and then you will just implement it. But I do want you to implement everything from scratch. That's a big one. And everything in Python. But you will also have to do the flowchart and the, at least for some of it, and the pseudocode and those kinds of things. Not for all of it, but for some of it. But we'll talk about it. So it's a kind of a thing that we have to talk about before. And that's the way, you know, that you would develop software, right? You're not just going to start writing some code. You're going to have some goals and go that way. Also, if you haven't done so already, I would strongly recommend that you create a GitHub account. GitHub is GITHU. You create your account, and then you can use that to share your code with your friends, collaborate, and then, you know, you can post the code there. So when you do your presentation, you can just reference it from there, although you will have to run it in the demo. Any other questions? Okay. Is there anyone that is currently still not in a group? Can you please either raise your hand or speak in the chat or speak out loud? Oh, okay, somebody needs one. You need a group, or do you need one more member for your group? A group, okay. Is there a group of only 2 people currently? Yes, when you email me, only one person in your group should send me the names of the 3 people in your group and also a list of 3 topics that you would want to do, just to kind of have something in mind. You could do, if you like sports, you could do like a sports ticketing system, you know, like a stadium. If you like theater things, that's similar, seating, even the movie theater, seating. You could do that. That would be an interesting one. You know, reservations for a hotel, reservations for airlines. You know, like an airline system, car rental system. You can think of all of those. Remember, files are central to a lot of what we're doing. Today, we're going to start looking at some more coding in files in Python. And so you'll see that. I will continue the lectures on files next week. So you're not going to have a files homework this week. I might just do like a very light input validation homework this week, but that's about it. So files, we're going to continue next week. All right, so was there not a group of 2? because we have one person that still needs a group. Video again. Sorry. All right, so it's recording now. So there's the problem, tic-tac-toe. So we're gonna do it, the program should run a loop that does the following. Displays the contents of the board array. All right, that's simple enough. Allows player one to select a location on the board for an X. Okay, so player one will be X's. The program should ask the user to enter the row and column number. Okay. Then C allows player two to select a location, so allows player two to select a location on the board for an O. Okay. The program should ask the user to enter the row and column as well. D determines whether a player has won or if a tie has occurred. Okay. If a player has won, the program should declare that player the winner and end. If a tie has occurred, the program should say so and end. And then E, player one wins. Okay, and here's the rule on how somebody wins. Player one wins when there are 3 X's in a row on the game board. Player two wins when there are 3 O's in a row on the board game. The winning X's or O's can appear in a row, in a column, or diagonally across the board. A tie occurs when all the locations on the board are full, but there is no winner. Okay, so that now wins when there are 3 X's in a row on the game board. Player two wins when there are 3 O's in a row. But then it's saying it's really rows, columns, or diagonals, right? That's really how you guys interpret it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started then. All right, so this one, I'll take some if statements here. So let's start the Jupyter Notebook. So let me share. Okay, so you guys should be seeing the Jupyter. So we need to create a 2-dimensional array, it said. Okay, so that we can do game. Tic Tac Toe. Right. And we're going to say a list of lists. And it said initialize them to asterisks, if I remember correctly. Right, and there should be 3 of these. Okay, so that's 3 right there. And I believe when we did the slides, we had something like this, right? We talked about how a list of 3 lists would be equivalent to a 2-dimensional array. So that's in the slides. So usually when you iterate through a two-dimensional array, you're going to have for I in range. And in this case, it should be 3 because there are 3 rows. And for j in range 3, right? And then, so we have these. And now let's just say print. I'm going to write over here a comment. I'm just going to say Tic Tac. All right, and then now we're going to say print. I just want to see what's in this. All right, so I'm going to do game Tic Tac Toe. And then now usually there's 2 indices, right? So we're going to do I and j. So that way we can iterate through all, you know, as we say, row 1, row 2, row 3, and then from each one, J1, or column 1, column 2, column 3. All right, so let's try this one, and let's see what happens. All right, do you guys think that worked or no? What's your opinion?
It kind of worked, but it doesn't print in the like format that you would normally see a tic-tac-toe game.
Right. So this, you know, right now this is one of the most important parts. I think this part, and then the logic, right, of who wins, who loses. We got to figure that out. But at this point, it's iterating through the array, and that's important. Another way that we can validate that is, for instance, we can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? So we can try that. And let's just take a look at what happens. Right, so somebody's asking me to change the asterisks to numbers. I'm changing them to letters. That's pretty much the same thing. All right, so I'm gonna try now. Okay, and I'm gonna run. And you can see it's printing out the letters, okay? Printing out the letters there. So that's good. So now you guys want to, so we need to have some inputs in here, right? So we need to have some inputs to say where we want. So we're going to play a game. So any kind of game will need a for loop, right? It's going to be a for loop, you know, until somebody wins or until there are no more values to fill. Okay, that means there's no more asterisks in the game, you know. So let's just say for now, this could be a while loop, this could be a for loop. We'll have to think about it. But let's say while let's just say for now, not game over. And then maybe we'll need to have a variable for that, right? You know, I think usually it's called like done, game done, game over. I'm just going to create a variable called game over equal false for now, and that way game's not over. But then once we meet the ending criteria, we'll change that. So what do we need? Usually we need, you know, we're going to start playing the game, and yeah, we need to change the shape of this to look a little bit better, right? So look a little bit better. So we'll have to think about that. We'll probably need to do, instead of this print like that, we will need to do a print. And then in Python, you would need to do something like dot format, I think. And then, so if I do this, B, so then I'm going to add all right, so let me try that. And then here also, I need to take the input of whoever's playing the game. So I'm just going to say print player one, right? Player one, enter. And the problem said enter X and Y, I think, right? Enter. Yeah, I think that's what it said. So enter, let's say row, let's say index. And so we're going to need a variable for that as well. So let's just say row index. And then we're going to say print player one. Oops. Enter column index, right? And then that's going to be column index input. You guys see that? Are there any questions so far? And then once we have the row and index for player one, then we make a move. So I don't remember. Let's say that player one was X. I'm just going to write that here. I'm just going to say X. All right. So then here is where this becomes, the game is updated. So we're going to do game Tic Tac Toe. All right, and now we need to say what position we put in here. So it's going to be game Tic Tac Toe, row index, right? And column index. Now I ask you the question, what goes here? What goes there? Guys, what do you think? If it's player one, if you were playing this game and you're player one and you say row and column, what would you put there?
X.
Exactly right. Yes. You see that? That's why initially these are asterisks, is because asterisk just means the game is empty. But as you start doing things, as you start plugging in values, it's going to start to change, right? And then we don't necessarily have to right now worry about who wins or loses, we can still just update the board and look at it. And then you can actually, oops, keep typing that. Just by looking at it, you would know who's winning. So let's try this. All right. Now, one thing that's going to happen, if you notice, is that we want to display that board constantly. And so instead of having to retype this code all the time, what could we do? We want to reuse that code, right? So what would you recommend I do with those for loops?
Make it a module.
In a module, very good answer. Exactly. So I'm going to create here, you know, function basically, define, and we're going to say, we call it display board. Okay? So we're going to display board. And that way we can call it all the time and not really have to worry about typing this again. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. So this will allow us to print the board all the time. Okay, we have the game here. They're all asterisks. And then now we have this. I'm just going, currently this is going to be an infinite loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an input here. And by putting an input, I can kind of pause it, right? And every time I pause it, I just want to display the board. Just right now, I'm just trying to figure out that I'm doing this correctly. So it's sort of the debugging, if you will. So I'm going to call display board all the time after the input just to see what's happening. Make sense? Are there any questions? All right, let's see if it errors out. Okay, so I'm going to say I want in the middle, right? I want to put the X in the middle, so that would be 1 and 1. Okay. Okay, there's an error there. What's the error?
I think it's that the module cannot actually access the Tic Tac Toe array because it's a local variable.
It is, well, actually, keep in mind the array is actually outside. See, it's not in the function. So it's definitely outside. So it should be, you should be able to access it from the loop. But the error here is actually this the common error I've been making all semester that I always forget to typecast. Because remember, an input is a string, and the array needs those values to be integers. So, the error was here, this and this. And if you look down here, there's a clue. It says list is the array, right? Game, tic-tac-toe, indices, okay, that's these, row index and column index, must be integers or slices, not string. So there we sort of see, okay, you know, typecasting. So let's try it again. Let's see what happens. You know, and this is the process of debugging, right? So this is how you usually debug things. You go one by one. So let's run it again. And again, I want this in the middle. So let's see what happens. All right, and then there's that input that I put, and then there's the display. You guys see that? So let's take a look at it. Did it put the value in the middle?
No.
Oh. Here it is.
Oh, I see it.
Mhm.
I didn't even see it.
I'm sorry?
Oh, no, I didn't see the X.
Yeah, the problem is the formatting, right? So now we got to work on this formatting. It doesn't look nice, but we know that this A and B, I left it there intentionally. I know that that worked. It didn't give me an error, right? So then now I can, based on this, I can create sort of a nicer display board. Okay, so I'm going to use the same approach. So what I'm going to do is now, every row needs to have 3 values, right? Not 2. So what do? I'm going to, and then we can try to make this more presentable somehow. Tic Tac Toe games, they're like little squares, right? So maybe, just maybe, let's try this. See how it looks. So I'm going to do that and that. The key, I think, is to make this look formatted correctly. And then I'll explain what I'm doing. So if you notice, what I did before, I only had these curly brackets, right? Initially, I had 2 curly brackets in the string. So if you notice, this is a string. So let me do it this like that. So if you notice, I create a string. And then I'm going to say dot format, and I do this. So what that means is I'm going to format in some way what's in that string. But which part of the string? I can type whatever I want, and that will just be displayed like, oops, not there. And that will just be displayed like that. But I can also plug in values inside. You can call these placeholders or whatever you would like. These curly brackets basically mean that something will be displayed there. The curly brackets will go away, and instead you're just going to get the value coming from, it's going to be in here. That's why I had that A and B, A. So it's sequential. So if I have 1, I need to have 1 here, you know, a format string. If I do another one, a second one, then I need 2, comma, B. If I want a third one, then I can do another curly bracket, right? And then over here, I can add the third value. And these will sequentially be plugged in there, okay? So that's what I did in the example before, only now I'm gonna modify it to look better. So one thing I'm gonna do is just add square brackets, square brackets around the letters to see if that looks a little bit more presentable, more like a tic-tac-toe game. And then we can work with the format of it. Does that make sense, guys? Are there any questions about that? Any questions?
I don't have a question about that, but I have a question. When you put 1 for on the 1, you put 1 for row at the row index, you put 1 for column. I'm still kind of confused how that got into the middle instead of like the top part of the row 1.
Right, because remember it starts at 0. So it's 0, 0.
Right. It's 0. It starts at 0. Okay.
That's what it is. So that's always a point of confusion, that in programming, everything starts at 0, not at 1. So that you don't, remember, if when programming started, it was all about maximizing memory. But if you only always started at 1, the binary equivalent of 0, it's like you were wasting that, right? And you didn't want to waste it. Do you see that? All right, so then let's continue then. All right, so now we need to print out the game. Now, what are we going to plug in here instead of A and B for the tic-tac-toe game?
X and O.
But where are those X's and O's coming from?
From the input?
Not the input. The input will populate the array, but here we just want to display what's in the array, correct? So then we're going to do, and I probably shouldn't have made such a long name. I'm just going to say game because that's going to get you. You know, tic tac toe. Let's just say that. So now I need to make sure that everywhere else I'm going to change that. Tic tac toe. And then here. Tic tac toe. And then do I have, no, that's it, right? Okay. So given this then, now I'm going to do here, all I have to do is select the list and pick the appropriate values that I want there, right? So it's always going to be game, tic-tac-toe, with the appropriate indices. And then here also game, tic-tac-toe. All right. So what are the indices for the first row? You guys tell me. What are they? And keep in mind, we're going to do this for the whole board. So I can just copy this. And now you guys tell me the indices. So what's the index for the top leftmost cell in the tic-tac-toe? What are the corresponding indices in the array?
Would it be 0, 0?
That's right, 0, 0. What about the next one?
0, 1?
1, very good. And the last?
0, 2.
Right, now let's go to to this one, the middle one. What are the indices?
1, 0?
How about this?
1, 1?
This one?
1, 2?
All right, and the last one?
2, 0? 2, 1?
And?
2, 2?
Exactly. All right, very good. So now we are printing this out. Let's take a look at what it looks like, right? So let's run it again. All we're doing right now is kind of trying to display this a little bit more presentable. So let's run it. All right, and still I'm going to put the X in the middle. So that's 1, 1, and then, okay. So okay. So I needed to get rid of this for sure. And I don't need to iterate through it anymore. That's what's happening, right? I no longer need to iterate it. That was just something I was doing before. And we might need it again for to know if you won the game. But now, since I changed the logic, I don't need that again. So let me just. Okay. Are there any questions? Any questions, guys? All right, so let's try it again. Okay, one more time. There we go. What do you guys think?
Looks a lot better.
A lot better, right? Now it's maybe just for more presentation, let's just add a print statement. with blank in it, just so that we have a little bit more spacing in between things. But now we have this. So now it's more intuitive, right? So now I want to put a X in the last one, the rightmost and the right and the bottommost cell. So what's the value for that? Player 1, enter row index, what?
Would it be 2, 2?
2, 2, right? So 2. Do you see it's there? Does that make sense, guys? Are there any other questions?
So when you do player 2, it's going to be the same loop as player 1, but you're going to make a print statement that's going to say add player 2 next, and then just be player 1.
Think you have to do this, right? Now you go to the while loop and copy what you did because everybody takes a turn, right? So player 1 plays and then player 2 immediately can play. So now let's say print 2, 2. Player 2 is going to be O's. And what else do we have to change? The X, right? It's going to be an O now instead of an X because this is the move of this player. You guys see that? And so now let's try this. So I'm going to clear it again. All right, so I'm going to run this. So player 1, enter row index. Middle. Player 2, enter row index. And it would be helpful here to see the board. So but we can change that easily. We'll do that in a sec. So let's just say I'm going to do what I was doing, 2, 2. And there you go. Do you see that? Now we have the position of the X where the player 1 and the position of O where player 2 did it. Do you guys see that? Guys?
Yeah.
Right. And so now we can start, at this point, I think we can actually play it. So let's try it here. All right, so player 1. So let's play this strategically. I'm going to go with 2, no, 0, 2. Okay. So now player 2, what move should I do? Come on, you guys play against me.
All right. So 2, no, 0.
2, 0. Okay. So now I have to make a move. I'm gonna say 0, 0. What happened? All right, let's start again. I'm gonna get rid of this input here. Not sure what happened, but let's see. I'm also going to I'm gonna display the game at the very beginning. All right, let's see. There's some kind of bug, so let's work it out. Let's see. All right, there's the game. So I'm gonna do 0, 2. Okay, and then what you guys had said, what was it?
2-0.
0. Let's see, there seems to be some kind of bug. Okay. All right, now my move, here's where it errored out before. So I'm gonna do 0, 0. Oh, now it's working. All right, your move.
0-1. Yeah, 0-1.
0, 1. Okay, so now my move. Okay, your move.
I already lost this game. So
You already lost. Yeah, so I think you could have moved to 1, 2, right? That would have been 1, 2. All right, and then I would move to what would be
1-1.
Hmm?
1-1.
1, right? And X is wins. All right, great. So we can visually. So we've got the mechanics of this done, right? Now the last part of it is what's left in the problem.
To tell if you win or lose.
Exactly. Now you got to figure out. So every time that you run the iterations, you've got to figure out, who's won, who's lost, right? That's what's left. We got it working, but we got to figure that out. So then I'm going to go over here. Okay. So we probably need some kind of function, another function. That would probably be the best thing. And this time we'll probably need those 2 for loops. And then we just need to say, game. We can call it whatever we want. So game, win, lose, or draw, right? Something like that. And then, so now we got to figure out the logic for this. So you guys tell me, what would be the logic for this? How do we know? And then this function needs to be run every time at every iteration, right? So we're just going to do something like this. After display board, for instance, this runs and it'll return true or false, right? So it'll say for game over, the variable game over, we're going to return a value. So if it continues to return false, we continue playing. But if it returns true, then we exit out of the game, right? And then we just say who wins. Make sense? So we can say, so now the question is, what logic should go in here? How does one know if somebody wins this game?
Can you use if statements?
you would use some kind of if statement, right? You would have to use some kind of if statement to say, what are the conditions that x's are in the diagonal or zeros are in the diagonal, or that x's, it's all x's in a row or a column, or all zeros in a row or a column. So it really has to be that they are equal, right? The three symbols. So that's really what we need to check, is we need to check all rows to see if they're all the same value, or all columns and the diagonal. So the diagonal is only one, so maybe we can start with that one. So how do we do that? Now there are multiple ways of doing this, and some could be more efficient than others, right? So I hope that makes sense, that some solutions might be simpler than others. What do you guys think? Any suggestions?
I'm just trying to think, because ain't the program reading X and O as string?
They are strings.
So how can I make it that one is equal?
Say that again?
So how can I make them equal if the program is going to read it as string?
Right, but you can compare strings to see if a string, you can say, is x equal to x? True. X equal O, false. So you can compare strings, right, to figure out. So what we need to do is we need to figure out how to check rows, check columns, and check the diagonal. So let's think of the diagonal. So for I in range, right? How many values in the diagonal?
3.
3. So then let's say if we have all the values, we can say, remember lists, right? So we can use a list, diagonal list, and it's initialized to nothing. And then what do I do here? I can iterate through it. It's probably the best way to do it. So I'm going to say for I in range 3, diagonal list dot append, and what do I append? I can append the whole game, right? So game, but I only want the values in the diagonal. So what do I do here for the indices? What are the indices in the diagonal? What are they?
0, 1.
Not 0, 1.
I mean 0, 0, 0, 0. Then it's
The other one. Just in the diagonal.
0 diagonal.
Well, you remember the diagonal is 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, correct?
Yeah.
So then what's common about that? They're the same, right? So that means we can just say I. You see that? And that way we'll have 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. Now we have them in a list. What are the values? And all we need, so the condition now would be what? If they're all the same. You see that, guys? So we could say if And there, as I said, there are a lot of ways of doing this. You know, there are ways that are much more efficient than this, but you know, I'm just going to do this. So now I have 3 values in there, so I can just say if diagonal list 0 equal diagonal list 1, right? And diagonal list 1 equal diagonal list. What would be the value of this one?
Two.
Very good. So what does that tell you? If they're all the same, return true. And at that point, the game is over, right? So you return true, and you should probably return who won as well, X's or O's or something like that. But let's just think about this one for now, right? Now notice that here, this for loop was not necessary because we only had 3 values. However, I added the for loop in there because what if it was a bigger tic-tac-toe, you know, that had 20 by 20? You know, that would have made that if statement a lot more complicated. So we would have to think of it in a different way, okay? But so I'm gonna just take it out, and then I'm gonna replace this with just game tic-tac-toe. And it's pretty much, and now, but now I have to do the double index, right? So I'm gonna do that. All right, so then it's gonna be now for the diagonal. I don't need the diagonal list either. So for the diagonal, it's gonna be 0, 0, right? 1, 1. Two, two. You guys see that? Is this making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it returns true. That's one thing. And then just like I did this with the diagonal, we could probably do the same approach for every other one, right? I assume you guys can see that now, but we still need to say who won. Don't you agree? So maybe if they're all the same, we know that they're all the same, so just return one of the symbols in this return. So we can actually, when you have a function, you can return 2 values. So I'm just going to say, given that they're all the same, I'm just going to pick one and return that. And I'm going to say game tic-tac-toe. Just pick, you know, whichever one you want. 0, 0. Which one of the 3? And now we have then who won and that the game has ended. So now we can go over here, and where we did game over, now we also have winner. And then that means over here, I'm going to say winner currently, we just initialize it to no one. And then now we can say the next iteration, game over, will be done right? So then we just print the game was, or the winner of the game is winner. Do you guys see that? Does this make sense, guys? Are there any questions?
I actually have a question. So excuse me. So how does it determine in cases when no one is the winner?
Right. No, we're not done. So that's a good.
Oh, okay, sorry.
In the case where no one is the winner, because it's just going to continue, right? But at some point, there are no moves to make. That's what you're saying, correct? So we also need to check for that. And so what I would argue here is that in the if statement, at the very end of the if statement, the last if statement, if there are no winners, if it doesn't find any winners, and if there are no more asterisks in the board, because the asterisk is the thing that determines if the game can still be played, then at that point, there were no winners, there are no more asterisks, game over, nobody won. Does that make sense? So it would be something like, to basically do a search, I think. So let's do for I in range 3, for j in range 3, right? So this allows us to search through the whole game. So now I'm going to say, what am I going to say? I'm going to say, if game I, j, if any of them equal asterisk, we can still continue playing. Oops. Right? So we have to get to the very end. The second that we find an asterisk in the board, we know we can continue to play. So then we're just going to say return false, right? That means nobody has won the game still. Do you see what I'm saying? And this function needs to return also this doesn't matter, I think, because still playing, let's call it. Okay, so let's test it. Usually at this point, it's a good recommendation to just run it, find any bugs. Okay, there's the board. I'm going to try the diagonals. I'm going to do player 1, 1. Okay. I'm almost, oh, player 2 now. I'm gonna say 2-0. Okay. I'm gonna go with 0-0. Okay. So now player 2, let's say player 2 picks 0-2. Now, at this point, I should win. If my if statements are correct, I'm going to enter 2-2. And at that point, the game should say, game over, somebody won, and the winner is X. Right? That's the logic. So I need to put 2, 2. Oh, okay, so we need to move that condition a little bit sooner, but basic because here we still want to give a term to player 2. So we'll need to work on that one. But so this should be 0-1, for instance. And then now, there we go. Do you guys see that? It worked. The winner of the game is X. You see that the diagonal condition worked?
Yeah.
So we would just have to do several if statements for the other conditions, but basically we could do it, sorry, not like that. We could do it like this. So we've sort of shown here that this works. Now the one I want to test now is this one, right? So someone had the question, okay, what if nobody wins? So if nobody wins, you keep playing until there are no more asterisks and the game is over and you say, you know, so basically here, if nobody won, so we need something else here. We need, if we get to the end of the for loops, we need to indicate that there are no more asterisks, right? So how do we, so that part is still needs resolution. Any ideas? If game, I think basically like a control would be good. Control n, let's see, equal -1. And so here we're going to say, if game, the second I find an asterisk, I change control n to 1 from -1. It means that I found an asterisk. However, if I don't find an asterisk as I'm searching, then control n does not change, right? Because I never went into if statement for the asterisk. So at that point, that would be the last condition where you say, if control index, or sorry, control n equal -1, it means that you did not find any more asterisks in the board. And what does that mean? You'd return you return what? True, right? It means the game is over and you return who won, which is what? nobody wins. What do you guys think of that solution? You think it'll work? Only one way to know. So let's try it. So we would need to play a game here until the end with no winner, and we'll see. So let's go ahead and clear this up. All right, so let's run it again. Okay, so 0, 0. And then 1, 1. Okay. Two, 1. Okay. I just want a game where nobody wins. 2, 2. Okay. Two, 0. Okay.
1, 0.
0. Okay. All right, and then now it should be 2, 2, 1, correct?
I thought it was gonna be 1, 2.
Oh, yeah, sorry. 1, 2. You're right. Yes, 1, 2. Okay. And then nobody could win now, but you could still play, right? I guess X. No, nobody could win. So let's do 0, 2. Okay. And then now that just, so at this point, after this one, there should be no more asterisks. The game should end, and the program should say nobody wins. So this should be 0, 1. And it always, okay, so there is this thing that it always lets somebody enter something, but that shouldn't be a problem. There we go. See, it worked. The winner of the game is nobody wins, and it stopped, actually. So that's almost the entire game now, because it handles when nobody, when there's no more moves to make, and there's no more, and nobody wins. So it did a good job. We probably need to work on this message, but the winner of the game is nobody wins. You guys see that?
Or you could just say nobody. So nobody wins.
Yeah. Nobody? All right. Does this make sense? Are there any questions? Did we miss anything?
No.
That's pretty much it, right? That's the logic. We just need to, we only did the if statement for the diagonal. I leave to you guys to do the if statements for the rows, the columns. I'm sure you can figure it out. We did when nobody wins. And then just work on this little bug of it really shouldn't prompt you to make a move if the game is over. So the way that we could probably do that is by putting an if statement that it only asks a person to play when game over is still false. Okay? You see that, guys? So it put these within an if statement, and the if statement should say, if game over, or if not game over, then ask the player to play. And that should take care of it. Another thing you could do, if you notice, these are actually the same. So you could write functions for these, make it a little bit more modular. So that's another recommendation. But yeah, that pretty much does it. And you can play the game of Tic Tac Toe and so on. All right, so that took almost the whole class, but it's a good problem for sure. Questions? All right, so I helped you out with, I believe that's one of the problems due tonight, correct? So just work on finishing it up with the suggestions I made, and then also implement the pseudocode and flowchart, and then complete all the other problems as well. All right, so yeah, we only have a few minutes, so I'll stay a few minutes in the class to see if you have any questions. Otherwise, this is a good stopping point. And so keep working on this, and then remember on Tuesday, we will continue with the slides on files. We haven't still haven't done that many file, or we haven't done any file examples yet, so we will do that next week. As far as homework, we didn't get to the input validation problems today, so that's fine. No homework. And then next week, I'll assign maybe like the input homework and the files homework. All right, so your homework for this week, then just work on the project with your teammates, you know, exchange all information, pick topics, make sure you send those emails to me so I know what type of excuse me, what type of a project you think you'll be doing, what topic. All right. So as I said, I'll stay here for a couple of minutes for those of you that have questions. Otherwise, we can stop here for today, and I'll see you guys next